So, today's session is all about working with difficult emotions. And obviously, if this is something that could be a challenge for you, such as feeling very overwhelmed, go into it only when you're ready. That's the big caveat. Healing takes time. Walk slowly. And obviously, when I talk in general about dealing with difficult emotions, it's about turning towards them and being with them to heal. And that can be anything, any emotion that you find in a challenge. It could be anger, it could be grief, it could be anxiety, it could be shame. And if they do crop up, you'll have the tools. You may not feel that at the moment, but when they do, when they show up for you, you can deal with it. So I'm going to give you a practice. It's quite a long one. You can do it laid down or seated. One caveat is that falling asleep when you're in meditation and mindfulness is the cost of distraction, because mindfulness is about being aware. And if you're not aware, you're not practicing mindfulness. You're not being mindful, you're being mindless. So if you're going to do this practice laid on your back and you might fall asleep, you might be better off doing it seated. Okay, that's my caveat. Now, a reason why we've done this poem before, and the reason I'm going to read it again is because I'm going to talk about the 5 stages of acceptance of difficult emotions. It's a process, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, like everything, doesn't it? And then I'm going to do shame on Friday, and sometimes shame can show up as other things like anger and, and what is the difference between sort of shame and guilt? Okay, because we're all talking about universal emotions here, because that's the whole point of self-compassion, is that we're talking about universal felt emotions, but isn't it strange how we don't want to talk about them because we feel shame, and also even though everybody else feels them, we don't want to, as if we're worried about somebody might get a very wrong view about us. There was some some imposter or something. So I'm going to read out the poem by Rumi. Rumi is great Persian poet. He's fantastic. I love him. There's a Rumi a day, and you can get him on Twitter. I'm really into Twitter at the moment because I follow lots of scientists, obviously, and a lot of educators online just to find out what their opinions are. It's usually not very cheerful. Because generally the scientists are saying a lot different to what we're being told. So stages of 5 acceptance. To understand this being human is a guest house. Okay. How much do we invite the emotion into our practice? Not much, Thich Nhat Hanh would say, the Buddhist mindfulness teacher. Not much. Go gently. We don't turn the tap on full. Now, the trouble with this poem is, I'm going to read this poem because this poem is basically about really flinging the door open to difficult emotions. Whereas I would say, just be Paul first, gently decide whether you want to invite that person in. Do you want that person sat in your living room? Let's personify emotions. Do you want that emotion sat in your living room having a conversation with you? There's certain people you wouldn't allow in your house, would you? So I'm just going to read the poem, The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honourably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide for beyond. Now, what's the difficulty with that poem? He says, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. So let's talk about the 5 stages of acceptance when it comes to difficult emotions. With reference to flinging the door open, you being the house and the visitor is the difficult emotion. So number one, okay, this is you going forward towards getting on with your emotions. So the stage is, number one, we don't fling the door open. So number one is we resist the difficult emotion. And what we've said before, haven't we? Whatever we resist persists. So number one is the emotion knocks on the door and you tell the visitor to go away, in certain terms. Or don't answer the door, which is what I do on trick-or-treat night. Number two is you explore. This is the next stage when it comes to dealing with difficult emotions. So you look at the little you look at the little peephole in the door and you turn to see who it is. You're curious. Who is that person knocking at the door? There's somebody at the door. Number three is we tolerate the difficult emotion, but we don't really invite that difficult emotion in. A little bit like an unfriendly guest, somebody we're not quite sure about. We safely endure that person. I don't know, have you got anybody that you know that you safely endure, that you make them stand in the hall and don't let them come in? It's like, right, I'm blocking the hallway. You can stand in the hall, but you're not coming in. But I'll endure you, okay? I know you're there. Fine, but you can stand in the hallway. Number four is allow. It's like, come in. Allow that emotion to come into your living room. Because you accept that your feelings will come and go. They are quite transitory. Emotions are transitory, aren't they? That's the whole point, isn't it? Emotion. If you think about splitting it into the syllables, motion means to move. And lastly, number five is befriend. You say to that emotion, sit down, have a conversation with them, invite them in, get the biscuits out, and ask why they are there. You see the value in the emotion and you have a discussion with the emotion and say to that emotion, how can you help me? Now, to get from 1 to 5 is a challenge and we don't turn the tap on. That's why we go through the stages, don't we? People stand in the hallway or let them in and then have a conversation. So what do we do when we get overwhelmed? Well, we use our resourcing tools, remember. These are trauma sensitive as well. What are our resourcing tools? Number one, when you come across a very difficult emotion, if you label or name the emotion, what it does is it actually deactivates your fear centre called your amygdala, which is in your brain. It's quite tiny, just above your brain stem. The amygdala is all to do with your fight, flight, freeze and flop. And I like to use this quote, name it to tame it. That's quite important. So number one, label and name. You deactivate the power of the emotion. Number two, this is where I come in because this is somatic experiencing and this is a lot of the work that I do, is you find the emotions in the body, quote, feel to heal. So emotions always have a physical component and we work with them slowly. And this is the somatic aspect of the yoga. When you're doing a body scan and you find it, you feel it. When you feel gut punch, tight in the chest, I did a Manamaya Kosha body reading today where I looked at how a person's emotions was in their posture, in their standing, by getting them to tap into and feel their postural alignment and to exaggerate where they felt it and then turn that emotion into a shape, a colour and a texture and then change that shape and that colour and that texture into something soft that you can work with, because that's where number 3 comes in, the soften-soothe-allow, and we've already done that. So what do we mean by soften-soothe-allow? Normally what happens is we tense our muscles around a particular emotion that we feel in our body, and so we work with it slowly. You can feel the clenching of the muscles around it. It may be a tension in the shoulder, could be a tension in the hip. All of these parts, different parts of the body, all all sort of have different, you think of metaphorically when we talk about, you put your shoulder to the wheel. That's work and burden, isn't it? Shoulders. Okay. When we talk about, where's your core and your backbone? It's like your ability to stand up against something, your empowerment. And when we say that somebody hasn't got a backbone, what we're saying, we're not saying that they're strong. Sometimes we fall under the weight of expectation. Your back becomes challenged, get pain in your back, or sort of your hips get tight. Really short, your gump in your hips, your psoas muscle. Okay, and and if you come into a posture and you exaggerate that posture, and your head goes forward and you're going forward and forward and down, you can see that person's been dragged down emotionally by so much that is piling on top of them. So the body does know the score, and this is the work that's been done now in somatic psychology, working with the body, as an easier way to get into the mind. So soften-soothe-allow is the third thing. So what we do is we soften our body around it. We don't clench. We come into it. We titrate. We feel it in our body, and then we soothe. So how do we soothe? We use the mammalian caregiving touch. We know that this is missing, and this releases the feel-good hormones. We use the gentle soft touch, so that releases serotonin. And the other one I've forgotten. Hey, I always forget my sciencey bits and bits of muscle sometimes. My mind goes blank. And then we allow. This is you mentally stop. This is when you're mentally not fighting. You're no longer resisting. But if it ever gets difficult in this practice we're going to do in a second, always remember that you don't have to go into it. You can turn away and just go, right, I'm not turning the tap on at all. I'm not going to do this practice. So you have that caveat, okay? Some people would do this practice in a therapeutic, especially the next one, to do with shame, in a therapeutic context with a counsellor, because counsellors do use these kind of techniques, very, very much into mindfulness, stress-based reduction, self-compassion mindfulness, all this stuff that I've had training in. These are all used in psychotherapeutic context and counselling context as well. So they are adjunct to and can be used for that. So let's do the practice. Let's have a go. And I just want you to choose which position you'd like to be in. So if you want to be on the floor and lay on your back, have your knees bent so that you don't get any pain in your lower back, prop up your knees or whatever. Always remember that falling asleep means that you're not being mindful. Or if you can do it seated in your normal mindfulness position. Now I'll just put my poetry book away. In your normal position, we always remember how we practice it. We have our hips elevated if our knees are higher than our hips. And we're looking for a nice, long, tall spine. Just so you don't push your chest forward a little bit. Just pull your lower ribs in. But you've got it's dignified and relaxed at the same time. Okay. So when you're ready and you're finding your seat, I will ring the bell. Or if you want to lay on your back, it's up to you. Choose whatever feels best. Okay, let's go. Ring the bell. So find that comfortable position. Close your eyes. Or a soft gaze just ahead of you. Take in 3 relaxing breaths just to allow yourself to drop into your seat, to feel the weight of your body and the body against whatever is holding and supporting you now. And place your hand on your heart or any other soothing place for a few moments to remind yourself that you are in the room and that you too are worthy of loving kindness. And when you feel ready, just let yourself recall a mild to moderately difficult situation that you are in right now. Maybe a health problem, a relationship problem. Maybe your loved one is suffering and in pain. But please do not choose a very difficult problem or a trivial problem. Choose a problem that you can generate a tiny bit of stress in your body when you contemplate it. Just have a little bit of a reflective exploration of what that is. And clearly visualize the situation, who's involved, what's happening. Almost as if you have a screen in front of you, your life is a film, taking it all in with your 5 senses. And when you feel comfortable enough to go into this situation, as you relive it, notice if there's any emotions arising within you. And if so, see if you can label whatever comes up. Can you name it? It may be anger, grief, sadness, confusion, longing, despair. And if you're having many emotions, see if you have a name for the strongest emotion associated with that situation. And if you can, try to repeat the name of that emotion to yourself in a compassionate, friendly tone, just to validate it, as if a friend is pointing it out to you, a compassionate friend. For example, this is grief. This is sadness. Now expand your awareness to your body as a whole. And recalling this difficult emotion situation, scan your body for where you feel it most acutely, easily. In your mind's eye, sweep your body from head to toe, stopping where you can sense the tension or discomfort. Just feel for what is feasible in your body right here, right now. Nothing more. And choose a single location where it probably expresses itself most strongly. Perhaps a point of muscle tension, a hollow feeling, or even a headache. And when you find it, incline gently toward that spot. Allow your awareness to fully inhabit the physical sensation of that emotion in your body. And now soften into that location in your body where you feel that difficult emotion. Let the muscles soften, let them relax, as if slipping into a warm bath full of warm, soothing water. Soften. Remember, we're not trying to change the feeling. We're just trying to hold it in a tender way, like a child, a baby. If you wish, just soften a little around the edges. If it helps, you can breathe into that space. Bring the spotlight of your breath. Maybe even place your hand over that part that feels uncomfortable. Just feel the gentle touch of your hand. Perhaps imagining warmth and kindness flowing from your fingers through your hand into your body. Even thinking of your body as if it were the body of a beloved child that's hurting or suffering, and you're giving it tender-hearted, warm affection and compassion. And maybe there might be some comforting words that you could say. You might need at this particular time, thinking about what you need. Just imagine you had a friend who was struggling in the same way. What would you say to them? What would you say to make them feel better? For example, I'm sorry you feel this way. I care deeply about you. Can you offer yourself a similar message? You can always let go of this exercise at any time. If it feels too difficult, you can always turn away. And even though it's challenging, can you allow the discomfort to be there? Can you make room for it? Can you allow releasing the need for it to go away? Allow yourself to be just as you are. Just this. If only if it's just for this particular moment. If you wish, you can repeat the cycle again of soft, soothe, allow. Going deeper each time. Checking with the sensations, if it moves in your body or it morphs into something different emotionally. Soothe once you've gone into it and let go of clenching. Working with the touch in the hand. And allow. Just no longer resisting or fighting the emotion, just allowing it to be there, just as it is. After all, it is a part of you. ready to let go, start to focus on your body as a whole. Allow yourself to feel whatever you feel, to be exactly as you are in this moment. Opening up to an expansive awareness of all thoughts and feelings and sensations as they drift in and out of your conscious awareness. Okay, as you're coming round from this practice, just have a moment to reflect. What did you observe? Did anything change for you? And was you able to locate the emotion in the body? Don't worry if you didn't. Sometimes if an emotion is too strong, it can have quite a numbing, flat effect sensation. And it can also quite easily change location and emotion. After all, emotions are transitory and they move by their very nature. So, as I've said before, if you ever feel overwhelmed in any of all of these practices, just let the exercise go until you feel safe enough to come back to it, or just do something else. Okay? Remember, if you walk slowly, you'll go further. I'm going to leave it at that. Namaste.